Hi, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of the REFSIX Weekly. I'm joined, as always, by my co-hosts, John and Rimon. How you guys doing?
Right.
Yeah, very good. Thank you.
Good. Lots to talk about this week, lots of incidents in the Premier League. But we'll start, as always, with some news from around the refereeing world. Last week was announced the two officials for the Champions League final and the Europa League final. So actually, as I think we predicted on this podcast, we got it bang on. So Antonio Leos from Spain and the rest of his Spanish officials will take charge of the Champions League final between Man City and Chelsea. And the French team, including Clement Turpin, will officiate the Europa League final between Man U and Villarreal. So great appointments for those two. I think it's been a while since the Spanish and French team have officiated any of the top Europa League or Champions League finals. So about time. It's great to see them there. Last night was the final game of Lee Mason's Premier League career, at least on the field. He retired after the Man U Fulham game, but is now, or has been, it was announced just prior to that he would be become the first full-time VAR official for the Premier League for next season. So that's quite interesting to see the Premier League go down that route. So maybe we'll see some of the other officials next year who are potentially retiring take up the mantle of a full-time VAR position. So really interesting. And in Japan, there was some history made. Yoshimi Yamashita became the first Japanese female referee to do a professional game in Japan. So congratulations to her. Some great history there. And loving seeing these stories from around the world of female officials getting elite games. Really kind of opening doors and showcasing, that refereeing is, you just have to be a good referee. It doesn't matter what your background is, or gender, or ethnicity, or orientation, etc. So that's great to see. So that's the major news from this week. Looking forward to some of the big games coming up this weekend. The final weekend of Premier League matches, the Champions League and Europa League next week, as well as some of the playoff games. So excited to see who gets to play off final two. So yeah, Rimon, without further ado, let's move on into reviewing some of the incidents of the week. It's quite a lot to go through, so I'll let you handle just walking us through some of those.
Yeah, so last time we went through some incidents as well from the Premier League rounds, and gonna do it this time as well. So this is from the last round. I think it was round 35 and 36.
Mm-hmm.
And the first one we're gonna start with is the Arsenal goal against Chelsea. Chelsea against Arsenal. The game ended 1-0 to Arsenal. And the referee was Andrew Mariner. I think it was around minute 16 where Zuma from the left side played the ball into the middle to Jorginho. And Jorginho, without looking back to his goalkeeper, he just assumes he's in the middle of the goal, passes the ball back with the pressure from the Arsenal players. And yeah, it was almost an own goal, but the keeper just managed to put his hands on the ball and puts it aside. I think Aubameyang gets the ball, plays it to Smith Rowe, and then he scores the goal, hits the bar and in.
Mm-hmm.
The one situation we're going to talk about is the handball from the goalkeeper, because obviously the law says you cannot touch the ball from your own teammate unless it's from like a header or above the knee regions. So the question here is, what's the law? What's the rule around this situation here with the handball?
Yeah, no, I think it's a really cool incident because it just shows how many pundits and football fans don't know the laws, right? Because I saw a lot of fans tweet about, oh, this should be Dogzo. He's handled the ball. We'd rather have a penalty and the player sent off and stuff like that. But unfortunately, law doesn't back that up. So what law states is that if the goalkeeper handles the ball inside the penalty area, when not permitted to do so, so that is when a player from his team has deliberately played the ball back to him with their feet, an indirect free kick is awarded, but there's no disciplinary sanction. So basically, any form of pass back to the goalkeeper has the right to, well, they can handle the ball, but they will give an indirect free kick away. There's no yellow card. There is no ability for it to be Dogzo or denying a goal by hand. So the decision, there was no decision here, actually, because what happened in this game was Andre Mariner played a really great advantage to allow the goal to, the play to proceed. If he wanted to stop play at that point where Kepa handled the ball, it would be an indirect free kick at the edge of the 6-yard box to Arsenal. So really interesting on that. So not Dogzo. It could never have been Dogzo. The only thing that could have come out of it was an indirect free kick to Arsenal. No sanction. John, it's an interesting one to play an advantage here, though. Do you think it was brave? Or do you think, because I'm just thinking, what happens if Smith Rowe blazes the ball over the goal? Do we bring it back for the indirect free kick? Do we say, well, the advantage is accrued? What are your thoughts?
I think it's brave, but I think it's the right decision in terms of, if you can get away with it, because he looks great now as a referee, doesn't he? He's played an advantage that's led to a goal. So he looks great in terms of that. So I think, it's brave. And if Rose Smith smashes it over the bar, then unfortunately that's his problem. The goal, as far as I'm aware, is basically open. I think Kepa's still on the floor scrambling around. There's no defender in sight. It's actually harder to miss. And I think he'll get more stick for missing than the referee would get for, and I think Rose Smith, even if he missed it, would have had a better chance of scoring that than he would have done had they brought the free kick back, because everyone's going to be on the line. They're going to be on the line, aren't they? Because it's only going to be 6 yards away. They can't go any further behind. So I think that was the better chance for them to score, really.
Yeah. So definitely a great piece of refereeing, I thought.
Yeah. So my only questions about that was, how do we restart? Where do we take the ball from? Where do we start? Where do we take the ball from? And you answered that correctly, Hassan. So I think, let's move on to the next one.
Sure.
Which is Liverpool against West Bromwich against Liverpool. Must win for Liverpool to be in the Champions League qualification, in the next round of Champions League. So the referee, Mike Dean, the first situation, there was an incident with Mike Dean. There was the build-up for the first goal for Liverpool, where Mike Dean stands in front of Fabinho. What I would have done in this situation was to let the ball fall, but instead he gave a free kick, afterwards they started right away and scored the first goal. John, my first question is, since you're a Liverpool fan, what do you think about this situation?
I didn't notice it straight away, actually. When the game was going ahead, I was watching it. I didn't notice it straight away. I actually only really thought about it when Sam Allardyce pointed it out after the game, and he was quite angry. It should have been a drop ball or an uncontested drop ball. As a referee, if it gets struck by the ball, gets in the way, and the players gain an advantage or don't gain an advantage, I feel like, in all honesty, he could have got away with it, because Fabinho looked like he was going to regain the ball anyway and play. So he might have got away with it. Like, there would have been no advantage and no disadvantage had that carried on, because I think the ball was heading that way anyway. But obviously the law is, if a player gains an advantage, so if it hits Mike Dean and goes forwards to an attacking player, then he has to pull it back. Or if obviously it hits the referee and goes to a defending player, then has to pull it back as well. Yeah, I do think that. I don't know what he's given, but from the outside, without hearing anything, it looks like he should have given a drop ball to Liverpool.
Did the ball actually touch him? I haven't.
No,
Seen
I think he got in the way of Fabinho.
Okay.
So this is also my next question for you, Hassan. Should there be a free kick? I mean, what will the referee do? He's just standing in front. I've tried that in many my games where I stand in front of a player, but I don't give a free kick if I'm in the way. I don't know.
No. So actually, I think what has made things a bit strange recently is the new law for if the ball touches the referee, which John alluded to, right? But that's what it's for. If the ball touches, not if the referee impedes a player. So this isn't changed. You know, the referee is basically part of the field of play in that sense, and nothing. There was no incident here. There should not have been a restart. The ball should have continued down whatever trajectory it went down. So unless there was something that we didn't see, like John alluded to, like we haven't spoken to Mike Dean, we don't know exactly what was going through his head. It seems like it's probably a mistake. Yeah, so I think there was a fair shout for a I don't know what this decision should have been. It should have allowed play to continue, and whatever happened. I do think, complaining from a manager complaining about this decision is a bit, I don't know what the word is, but a bit. Yeah, because, it's a halfway line. Yeah. All of his defenders are back. They've made 2 or 3 passes before it's even got to Salah. They had a variety of different opportunities to clear the ball. So, although this seems to be one of those small mistakes that happen in the game occasionally from a referee, but it wasn't although it led to a goal, I don't think it was a key match incident that should be really delved into much further. But yeah, it for those who are listening, if you get in the way of a player, it's unfortunate. Maybe consider moving or consider where you're positioning yourself on the field. But sometimes this happens. You could be in the right place and for some reason a player just comes into you. It shouldn't be anything other than allow the play to continue.
Yeah. So he was just blocking Fabinho's path, as I saw it. And they had plenty of chances to clear the ball afterwards.
Yeah. But
they didn't, as you said. So
but this is almost exactly the same as, okay, well, you got the throw in wrong at halfway line, but then that led to a goal. Come on, you can't. Yeah. We can't be perfect. It was a mistake. It seems like it was a mistake, unless there's something that we don't know about, like a dissent or something. I have no idea. But if it was dissent, you'd probably see a yellow card be shown. So it probably seems like a lapse of concentration, possibly.
Well, if he wasn't pissed first time Samuel Allardyce, he will for the next incident. Which you can same game, of course. Minute 71, which Bromwich have a corner kick, and I think his name was Semi Ajayi, who hits the ball to Kyle Bradley, who then scores the goal for West Bromwich. Simple as that. But VAR that Matt Phillips obstructed Alisson's view. So there's 3 ways of play becoming offside, which is interfering with the play, interfering with an opponent, and gathering an advantage. Right. I won't dive deep into the formulation of these 3. But John, from these 3, which one? I mean, do you first was there offside? And if there was an offside, which of these 3 did he give the offside for?
Yeah, I think it's offside, and I think it's for sort of interfering with an opponent because he's in sight of line of the goalkeeper. Darren Can, I think, is the linesman, and says it almost instantly because as soon as the goal goes in, there's like a commotion and the camera's straight on him. I think when the first ball is headed, Matt Phillips is right in front of Alisson. And Alisson's got no idea where that ball is going. And then obviously the next touch is the ball in the back of the net. And I know people have argued about Alisson should be looking up and Matt Phillips is smaller than Alisson. But, you're asking for a millisecond, and that difference of having a player in front of you, probably taking his eye line and being like, is it going to him? Is he going to flick it on himself? takes away Alisson's concentration or interferes enough with Alisson to say it's offside.
Yeah, I think the key here is interfering. I saw that, Alisson was taller than the West Bromwich player. It's like, it doesn't matter. You're still in my eye line. You're in an offside position. And as a team, you've gained an advantage by being there because you've made me either second guess what's about to happen, where the ball's going to go. I might have misjudged. I can't see where the ball's going to go, etc. So to me, this was a fair and clear offside. And no one's going to argue with Darren Cann. He's the best assistant referee in the world. But Rimon, do you think it was a goal then?
Well,
yes.
He wasn't expecting us. He wasn't expecting us both to say it was offside. That's the thing.
I'm just thinking about the play itself, right? Because we got the header came onto another player,
sure.
And if we take the player out from Alisson's view, Alisson will never get to the ball anyways.
Sure.
So yeah, according to the rules, yeah, that's an offside because he's standing on his in front of his view. So yeah, that's an offside definitely. But when I look again and again on the replay, I just see that the header comes to another player, and he's far away from the offside, from the player that is offside, and Alisson would not have reached out anyway. So I don't know. In my opinion, there's an offside, yes, but I don't know.
Like a true Man United fan there.
I'm on Sam Allardyce's side here. Yeah.
I kind of get where you're coming from. Like you're basically suggesting Alisson. There was no chance Alisson would have got it in anyway, right? But if we take that West Bromwich Albion player, I think you said it was Matt Phillips, right, away from the equation, we don't know what could have unfolded, right? We have no idea. Exactly. So all we know is at that time he was interfering with play, and therefore he's got to be offside.
Yeah.
But I get it. I get where you're coming from. I get why Sam Allardyce may be frustrated, but I also get it from Liverpool and Alisson's side too. And I do concur with an offside here.
Yeah, but then it was the right decision. No doubt about that. But
I think if I was Sam Allardyce, I'd be more annoyed about the first one than the second one. The first one is, it should have been a drop ball. There's more mistake there, whereas the second one is more black and white, in my opinion. He was in front of Alisson. He's interfering with Alisson's concentration and eye line. I feel like he's got his muddled up, I think.
Yeah. Concentrate the efforts on but again, like I said earlier, it's a mistake. So,
yeah. But even if I looked at the replay many times, I mean, the assistant referee just looked at it for 1 second and took the decision, which is incredible. Which is very, very, very cool of the assistant referee. Yeah. So yeah, but cool. So let's move on to the next game. There was a penalty in Newcastle vs Man City game. A referee was Kevin Friend. So it was the end of the first half. Saint-Maximin gets a long ball, offside, not offside. We can talk about that a bit later. And then he plays the ball into Joe Linton, where Ake fouls him in the penalty area, and the referee gives a penalty. Hassan, offside, no offside. I mean, VAR was looking into it. I don't know about the assistant referee, if he in the end said raise the flag or not.
Yeah.
And the
so
penalty itself.
Yeah, no. So as a Newcastle fan, I'm biased, but I'll give you my side. So this is the beauty of delaying the flag as an offside decision, right? Because lots of people, have complained about delaying it. It, interrupts the flow of the game, etc. But here is an unfortunate mistake by the assistant referee. He believes it's offside. Kevin Friend, they obviously communicate via the comms kit. The assistant referee would be communicating saying offside, and Kevin Friend would say delay, and they'll continue playing. And then this incident happens in the box, which on first viewing, I wasn't sure if it was a foul or if Joelinton slipped up, which he is prone to do as our most expensive signing. But then as soon as the challenge happened, I saw Kevin Friend blow his whistle and then raise his arm, and I knew instantly, okay, well, there must be an offside. I didn't really know where it happened. And then it was the Saint-Maximin obviously running through where the ball came through. But as this played out, I think it became clear what was happening. So VAR started to look at the penalty incident, which was strange because I was thinking, well, there's an offside, but they looked at the penalty incident to determine if they thought it was a penalty or not. And then all of a sudden it moved back for the offside decision. So that to me makes me think, well, VAR are going to recommend a penalty review here if the player's onside. So they go back to the offside decision and Saint-Maximin's clearly onside. So all of a sudden I'm thinking, great. Kevin Friend's going to have to go over to the review area to review this. We might get a penalty here. But what happened was, as soon as the offside was deemed to be onside, Kevin Friend gave a penalty. So working that out and unpicking that means that Kevin Friend saw the initial incident, decided it was going to be a penalty. VAR checked to see if there was a clear and obvious area around that decision, said no, it should have been a penalty, at least from their eyes. The on-field decision here was penalty, then it was offside, but then penalty. They looked at the offside and offside. So that's how it kind of came about, was actually Kevin Friend was going to give a penalty until the offside decision. So for me, it was a really interesting one. I don't think we've seen too many of those types of incidents happen. Whether or not it was a penalty or not is a different story, because some people think, Joelinton's planted his foot on Ake and vice versa, but VAR in this specific scenario didn't give the penalty. They just confirmed at least that there was no clear and obvious error on awarding the penalty.
But from Ake's reaction, you didn't see like a huge reaction and saying no, there was no penalty. It was like just
yeah. I mean, personally,
right?
I think it was a penalty. I think it's one of those soft, sloppier challenges that he may have get away with on another day, but it was a penalty in my eyes. And what a finish by Joelinton! Like, I've never seen him finish a ball like that. So it was a great, and I thought the whole game was great. But yeah, really interesting decision, I thought. And actually, for me, I think we've been benefited a few times from a delayed flag. I remember last year we played Sheffield United away, and there was a offside decision in the middle of the pitch that the assistant actually raised this flag for, I believe, and the referee, I think was Stuart Atwell, played a long advantage because John Joe Shelby was through on goal, and no one thought the goal was going to be given, and then come back and he wasn't offside. So, yeah, I don't know what the right decision is around these delaying the restarts. They're talking about FIFA are working on automated offside technology, which is going to help make quicker decisions for the assistant referee and the referees on who is and isn't offside. We'll see what involves that, but overall.
But John, as I mentioned, benefit from the delaying play. So I know Van Dijk, I mean, he didn't benefit from anything, right? From delaying the play. So it could, I don't know your opinion on that, because it could go very bad or very good, right, for a team. Because if he whistled for an offside on Saint-Maximin, which was wrong, well, that was a very bad decision, right? But imagine if something happened the same way as happened for Van Dijk, if he delayed the play and there was an offside. So
I think you've just got to look at it two ways. One, if the goalkeeper, like as if we were refereeing on normal games, we're told two things. One, if it looks like it's going through to the goalkeeper, delay the flag. If it looks safe, or we can, especially for the Prem guys, if they can get away with it and it looks like Saint-Maximin's very much on, he's got an open space to run into, then that's fine. There's no real like challenge or worry in his mind. Whereas if it's in and around the box where it's a little bit tense anyway, for example, the Van Dijk one, where, every player's in there, they're all very tense, then put your flag up early, because then we delay these situations or stop these situations when things are a little bit more more tense, because what benefit does a delayed flag do if a player is offside in the 18-yard box? Everything's tense anyway. So I just think that we can get away with the ones there. I think it's just being sensible refereeing.
And I think we all can agree on there's no yellow card here, right? So
no,
just careless, yeah.
Okay, so next one is it's Man U against Fulham. We have been all around now. Liverpool, Newcastle, now Man U. De Gea have the ball and he clears the ball upfield, and Bruno, I don't know, touches it, flicks it, or whatever you want to call it. He touches the ball and goes to Cavani. The referee was Lee Mason. And it just goes to Cavani. Cavani scores the best goal in the Premier League this season, right? So I don't know. When I saw it first time, I thought, he probably touched it. Then I saw it again and again, and I got a bit confused. So I don't know.
So because if he did touch it, then Cavani was onside. If he didn't touch it, then Cavani would have been offside, right?
Yeah.
This is clear. There's a couple of things here. One is the communication between the assistant and the referee, because what you would be hoping, therefore, as an assistant referee, is that the referee says touch at some point, right? So if it's touch Fernandez, then the assistant referee has that audio cue. We don't know if that's happened, but the goal was given on field because they deemed that Bruno Fernandes had touched the ball. I noticed that you said he touched the ball as a Man U fan. Whereas I think it's probably more likely that he did. I'm 95% sure he didn't touch the ball. But as I've watched a variety of different clips, I don't know if I've seen all of them and all the angles. I can't say that he's definitely not touched the ball. And I think that's where VAR has tried to find an angle and couldn't find it. I don't know how long the check was, so I'm not sure if there was a delay. But John thinks there is definitely evidence that says he didn't touch the ball.
I think this is guilty until proven innocent in this situation. I think it's offside until you can definitely say that Fernandes has touched the ball, because it's such a game changer. It's 0-0 at the time, and I'm not gonna lie, it's a screamer of a goal. But I think there isn't enough evidence to say that he's touched it, and there's more evidence to say that he hasn't.
But this this is where the on-field officials have made a call, right? And so whether it's the assistant or whether it's Lee Mason, believe that there has been a touch there, right? And therefore VAR has to prove, like you say, guilty until innocent. But no, the other way around. They have to prove that he is guilty or not guilty of making a touch. But if it was the other way around, if Lee Mason or the assistant referee actually did put the flag up and say actually it was offside, then VAR would have had to try and definitively prove that he did touch the ball, which also wouldn't have been able. So no matter what the on-field decision here would have been, whether it was on or offside, I'm pretty confident it would have stuck, because even if the flag went up, I don't think the VAR would be able to rule it the other way. It's one of those where just the angles probably weren't right for the cameras to get a conclusive judgment.
I think it's interesting that if you look at the Premier League tweets, like for fantasy football, originally they credited the assist to De Gea. And obviously proving that he was offside and didn't touch the ball. But I think it was an hour later that they came out with a tweet saying that Fernandes has apparently touched the ball. And because if they had given the assist to De Gea, they would have literally admitted that Fernandes hadn't touched the ball.
But I read somewhere that Fernandes said that he admitted that he didn't touch the ball. So
I was right.
Well, there you go.
He was right on this one, but Lee Mason, he gave the goal, right? So they need to find proof using VAR that he didn't touch the ball, and that was very hard to find. So the ruling had to stay.
I think he was offside. I don't think he touched the ball, but I can't show a clip or it doesn't look like the ball's deviated. If you look at the pattern on the football, you can't really see it. But there was no shot where you see air between Fernandes and the ball. But I did see a pretty cool image of Ultra Edge, which is used in cricket, overlaid on this image where it shows there was a snick on the ball, but obviously that is a little bit of Photoshop there. So, but cool. But great goal. Fantastic goal.
Yeah. Best goal in the Premier League.
Yeah, it was all right.
This is what we can get out of it.
Alisson's goal was the best goal in the Premier League of the weekend. I will not have any other words.
Yeah. That's for another podcast, I think. I don't know. but yeah, so maybe some guys somebody will make a new technology where they can detect if it does it or not, because it could also be a header or something, which you can see on VAR. So yeah. Okay, cool. So let's talk about the last incident from this week, which was the game from yesterday, Chelsea against Leicester. Before that, Chelsea against Leicester in the FA Cup final. Leicester won. So this was a bit of revenge for Chelsea, and a very important. They really needed to win as well, because they're playing for the Champions League spots. Same with Liverpool, same with Leicester as well. Mike Dean, the referee, I think it was minute 18. Very, very weird situation. I don't know. We're probably going to agree and disagree, all of us, in this one. But Tisman has the ball in the penalty area and wants to kick it out, right? And when Werner decides to put his foot in front of Tisman's foot, and Tisman instead kicks Werner's foot instead in the penalty area. No penalty were given, and VAR said the same thing. So my question, John, here is, why was there no penalty when he actually kicked his? I think it was his left foot, maybe right foot. I don't remember.
Yeah, that's a good question, to be honest, and I don't have the answer to it because I thought it was a pen. I thought that just because Werner got in front of the ball first, or got in front of the man, we'd see that given in the centre of the park. So I don't see why it should be different in the penalty area. He's just been slightly quicker. He's reacted well. We saw the West Ham player got sent off for his follow through against, I think it was against Chelsea a couple of weeks back. And like you say, you can't get out of the way of that. I know it got overturned, but the on-field decision stood, and the VAR stood as well. So I think there's no real difference in that. Yeah, Tielemans has pulled his back and tried to kick the ball, but at the end of the day, he's not kicked the ball. He's kicked Werner, and Werner's gone down in the box.
I thought it was a penalty. I think Mike Dean maybe was quite straight on to the incident and may from his angle have seen Werner place his foot. He may have seen it from the other. He did obviously see it from a different perspective, right? Because he gave a free kick to Leicester, so he must have seen the movement from Werner into Tillman, whereas from a different angle it looks slightly different. So yeah, interesting one. VAR. The reason probably VAR didn't get involved here would have been the way that Mike Dean would have described the incident to them. So he's seen it from a specific viewpoint. I don't know. I thought personally it was probably worthy of a clear and obvious error. I thought it was pretty clear that Werner's planted his foot down to try and get the ball, and Tielemans has kicked him. So that one's an unclear one for me. Really strange.
Well, the first time I saw it, I wrote to you guys right away, like, how on earth can there not be a penalty here? But when I saw it again, as you said, he planted his foot there maybe, and that's why there was no penalty, because he seeked it a lot. He really tried to get the penalty by planting his foot there. So I think if I was sitting in the VAR or was a referee, I saw the replay, I wouldn't have given a penalty as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
You've backtracked. Just before we go into the other incident, I think it's important to talk about the temperature of this game, because it was quite a heated game, right? And as you say, Chelsea, Leicester are fighting for the Champions League spot. They just played an FA Cup game where Leicester beat them, and you could potentially say Leicester were slight underdogs for that game. You know, most people would have thought Chelsea would have won that. And then there was some video clips of some of the Leicester players like throwing, I think it was Daniel Amate throwing like Chelsea's pendant down and stuff. So you're going into that game as officials thinking, whoa, we're in for something today. And it kind of started to get there, didn't it, as the game went on. So just interesting to know of the mindset the officials would have been in going into that game, knowing that, probably thinking this is going to be probably our toughest game of the season, and maybe it was. I'm not sure. But carry on. Let's go to the next incident on here.
Yeah, well, that actually was our last incident. It was about the intensity of the game. So the last incident was about, I think it was Rudiger and Ricardo from Leicester. Was a thing. I don't know. I don't remember what Ricardo did. He was standing in front of Rudiger, and Rudiger got annoyed and pushed him. And suddenly, you saw that everyone was there. So I'll give the word to John, and he can maybe continue from there.
Yeah, so that was obviously going to be today's main topic. It sort of led nicely onto that of like, how do we deal with mass cons? Obviously, Mike Dean only gave a yellow card to a non-playing participant then. So there's not really much to talk about. VAR deemed it irrelevant. But yeah, my question is, if something like that happens on your games, like, how are you dealing with it? If you've got both neutral assistants and club assistants, really, like, are you talking to people, or is there a specific way that you go about it? Or what is it?
Yeah. Great. No, good question. So in my pre-match to neutral assistants, I'd say if there's mass confrontation and up to 6 players, I can deal with it myself. When it gets a bit higher than that, judge your involvement, right? And if you do decide to come on the pitch, let's try and get different vantage areas, you know, try and get a triangle. This one's particularly high in temperature because it's right in front of the benches. So that adds another variant that you've got to think about. So I'm hoping my senior assistant on that line is getting there as quick as possible and trying to almost, you know, help with the benches whilst trying to keep an eye out on the field. And then I think it's about getting in and out as quick as possible. If you can get in quickly to diffuse a situation with a couple of players, then great. But as soon as you feel like, okay, well, there's going to be another 6, 7 piling in, get out as quick as possible. You don't want to be in the middle of that. So those are my tips. Rimon, what about you? Have you had many mass confrontations in your game?
Not as many as from the Chelsea game, but I think I had around 4 players. Which is not a lot, so I could deal with that myself.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, in this situation, keep your head up, keep your eye open, and see what's going on. Because what you don't want to do is get involved, right? You don't want to get involved with all the players trying to, I don't know, push each other or whatever they're doing. Keep your eyes open and give the yellow card that you need to give. Personally, I feel like he didn't give the yellow cards yesterday as he should for Rudiger and Ricardo, because they started it, obviously. And then, yeah, and from there it was hard to see who, I mean, then he had to give a yellow card to everyone, right? Because it was literally everyone in there.
I think it's interesting because some of the times, and one of the other things in my pre-match is, if there is mass con, get the instigator, the person who starts it, get the retaliator, the person who gives it a go, and then get the 2 goalkeepers if they're running 30, 40 yards to be involved. And if there's anything that's really ridiculous, that's a punch or something, obviously get that too. But it's impossible, you know, in that situation, you can't go and give a yellow card to, well, you can go and give the yellow card to all the 22 players, but your match credibility and control will go down the pan from there. So the instigator, the retaliator, and anyone running miles to get involved are normally the ones to do. And what you really want to do is balance it up. So I believe I might be right in saying Ricardo was already on the yellow card.
You are correct.
Is that correct? So if he did get the instigator and the retaliator, there would be a yellow, but one of them would be sent off. So I think personally this was great refereeing, actually, because otherwise it would have felt unfair and unbalanced for a fairly just innocuous kind of coming together and just emotions running high, right? But other piece of advice, John, you tell me if you do similar, is get the reds first, get them off, then do the yellows. Speak to both your assistants before you issue any cards. That way the players don't know who it's actually come from. And so you don't miss anything. Anything else you would do? I would make sure that the only other thing would be to try and make sure it's even on both sides.
Yeah, that's a big one, and I've been caught out of that quite a lot about it not being even. So I've started trialing. I can imagine getting slated in the comments for this. That one assistant referee looks at the home team and the other assistant referee looks at the away team, because then I know that at least I'm the high chance I'm going to get something from both teams. Obviously, I don't just say you only look at one team, you look at another. If there's anything that they pick up, then I'm happy to accept it, but I'd rather them look at one team than the other, and I'll look at both. So that means I get a general overview, and I've got obviously a clear head coming from one, a clear head coming from another. And I know that's not very accepted in sort of the refereeing world, because people aren't getting a clear picture. But for me, that gives me a very clear picture. It gives me enough time and enough confidence to take my time and be like, yeah, this is exactly what's going to happen. And I know it's something I've only tried in the last maybe 18 months. So yeah, it seems to work so far, but I can imagine it going tits up at one point.
So
sure, we'll be fine.
So one question here, guys: Do you think we should, when we have this mask on here, do you think we should use VAR to look into the situation and see if anyone should get it? I know we can't use VAR for yellow cards, but maybe in this particular situation, maybe VAR could be helpful to figure out what happened and who should get the yellow card, because there's a lot of people and we're already 4 or 5 referees.
But I think this comes down to, why is VAR there? It's there for the big decisions, and if there is no red card in that incident, there's no point getting involved. The referee can handle it. Again, if VAR said, hey, well, Rudiger and Ricardo were the ones who started it, give them both a yellow, then Mike Dean's got a really difficult decision there. He's going to send the player off, right? So I think how it is working okay in this particular scenario.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
All
right. Should we move on to some questions, John?
Yeah. So again, we've been sending some questions from sort of users that use the app and on Twitter, on Instagram. These are quite interesting. Actually, it'll be interesting to see your opinions on them, and anyone that wants to tweet us in and see what your thoughts and feelings are of this. What are your techniques for spotting simulation? Which is obviously something that came in hot topic in last podcast with Ollie Watkins. So have you got any tips and tricks to spot it?
I think we talked a bit about it last time in the last podcast, looking at the body language maybe, and seeing how he's falling down, and it's very hard. You have to be in the right spot, right? You have to be there. You can't be far away and think it's a simulation or not. So you have to be in the right spot. You have to be close as well and look at the body language. It's not an easy decision, I would say. And I really like that we have VAR for this right now, for these kind of situations when we're in the penalty area, to see if there's a penalty or not. Because before VAR, we had a lot of incidents, a lot of people simulating. So I think, if the lower league games, it's very hard to see if it's a simulation or not. So, but I will look at the body language. This is how I will determine if it's a simulation or not.
So I disagree. I think it's easier to figure out if it's simulation in the lower levels, and the reason is I don't think people are trained. I genuinely know that in some countries the coaches train players to simulate, right? It's part of the culture. Whereas in England, I don't at least at my level, I don't believe there are teams that are actually doing a coaching session on this. I might be wrong. But So that what I mean by that is people who simulate, it is obvious that they are simulating, at least at my level. I can't remember actually giving a yellow card for simulation in my career. I can't remember ever happening. But in terms of, I think player reaction, even at our level, is really key here, because I think it's obvious when people believe that they have been cheated, and I think you can tell. And I think there's more embarrassment on the player who did do it at the level at least I operate at. So I think it's pretty clear to, at least again at my level, to identify it. But then I've said I've never seen it. I've never given a yellow card. So maybe I'm completely misguided on here. There has not been a time where I remember giving a penalty and player said he's dived. So, John, have you had much?
Yeah, I've given yellow cards for simulation on the halfway line and in the box.
Okay, halfway line is interesting.
Well, yeah, but it's a form of cheating, isn't it? And if he's running through on goal and it's a quick break, what happened was the ball came over the top. It's a quick break and the guy's gone down, no touch. I know it's no touch. I've heard nothing, seen nothing, and I've backed myself that I'm quick enough to get into position. So that's an easy one for me. I think in the box I think you got it spot on by looking at both player reactions, because people know that they're getting cheated out or like things like that. So I think it's easy to be like, especially the player that's won the ball, he will be convinced that he's won the ball. And, you know, when players make a foul, it's a very guilty conscience. They'll walk away quite sheepishly. And I think you'll know then that you've got it right.
Yeah. No, brilliant. Cool. Well, I think that will do for this week's podcast. It was a great chat with you guys again, and I hope everyone again listened, took something from it, and we'll get to some more questions next week and some more topics. Thank you guys very much.
See you later.
Cheers. I got someone here, so I've got to go.
No drama.